I am Soygoy of Cuckad.
No, I swear I'm cucking the other guy by raising his child and reading him Locke. All the living things on the planet, please, give me your dopamine. Ah! You know what, guys? I've been thinking lately. I actually agree with Anita Sarkeesian. Soygoy is a garbage human. There's been quite a lot of shit going on with Soygoy lately. And I think it's all attributed to Spencer saying that he's not as smart as he thinks he is. And now he's gone on his world tour to just prove it to all of us that he is as smart as he thinks he is. I mean, just look at the way he debates with other human beings that aren't really easy targets and low-hanging fruit. He yells and screams over the top of them and tries to pigeonhole them to suit his agenda. Kinda reminds me of Kathy Newman versus Jordan Peterson. Are you saying something that would make everyone have the same opinion I have of you? Are you actually saying that you're a degenerate? Lately he's just been getting more and more SJW, using identity politics to dehumanize his opposition. That's why he'll throw around the term white niggers just casually, so he can sort of pigeonhole the people who disagree with him in a category of people I guess he thinks are bad? Like, what part about being black do you associate with them? And how does that make your argument any more valid? It seems to me that he was just put into a corner and he couldn't actually argue against any of their points they were bringing up. So he's like, you know what? I'll resort to a ad hominem attack, something he uses with Spencer. Oh, you're just resorting to an ad hominem attack because you can't counter my arguments. Oh, no, I will not counter your arguments. I will instead call you white niggers and pedophiles, and therefore all your arguments are invalid, because that makes sense. I watched a debate with Stephen Fry against political correctness, and he said something smart along the lines of, some people prefer to be right than effective. Just by watching Sargon debate other people, you can tell he's very shallow, pedantic, and he'll do anything as long as he's right. Well, almost anything. It becomes less about his so-called principles and more about my feelings. Because when he went into the Richard Spencer debate, he wasn't there to actually debate. He thought it was a whole joke. He thought Spencer would just get laughed at and he could easily steamroll over him. But he didn't. And he just looked like a complete cunt. And I'm going to be going through some of the parts in the debate which I just think were ridiculous on Sargon's part. And I'm not going through Richard's part mostly because, as he said prior to actually doing this, he would go open and honest and just see what happens, while Sargon was completely disingenuous and disgustingly arrogant. I could continue just talking about it, but I'm much more of a show you sort of guy. So here we go. The first part is going to be long because I sort of want to set the tone of how Richard's being open and honest and is not trying to be disingenuous in any way. And then Sargon comes out of left field just with something that wasn't even, it's like, what the fuck?
I actually, I spend a lot of time still, and I've certainly spent a lot of time over the past 10 years in Montana. I have actually spent time in Indian reservations. They're nice places, but they're actually tragic places as well. I have a great deal of sympathy for the American Indians, and I hope that they stick around. I think that they have a culture, they have a heritage, they have something to give to the world. I definitely wish them the best, and I would be fine with creating a real ethno state for them, not this pale counterfeit of America, which is the refuge, what reservations have become. That is, they've taken the worst aspects of America. They've taken the gamblism, the gambling, the alcoholism, which they can't process alcohol. It's a very tragic situation as Mongoloids. They've taken the worst aspects of America and they've lost many of the great aspects of themselves. I hope that they maintain the great aspects of themselves and that they really have a place that is truly Indian.
Are you suggesting we release them back into the wild?
Is this guy a disciple of Kathy Newman? You have to willingly not listen to what he's actually saying and have your own preconceived idea going into the debate just to say something as ridiculous as that. There's a part later in the video where Richard's saying, I don't think you're as smart as you think you are. And he's like, oh, you can read my mind. What color am I thinking of? And I just think that's hypocritical because, I mean, that's exactly what he's trying to do right now. He's trying to already tell everyone else what Richard's thinking when it's clearly not what he's thinking. It's one of the most disheartening things to see someone being treated with just utter disrespect simply because they hold a different opinion. The thing with these types of people is that they don't really care about you. They don't really care about the principled argument or any of that. They're only there to get attention, praise, and power. They will smear you. They'll try and twist your words. No real integrity or respect. Just me, I'm right, you're wrong, shut the fuck up.
That's a really, I have to say, that's a shockingly insulting thing to say. We're going to release them to the wild. Yes, I think that there are parts of North America that should be wild. I think that's a great thing. And I think it would be a great place if there was a part of this world that still the white man would fear to tread. I think that's a good thing.
May I just ask Millennial Wolves, how do you weigh in?
Funny?
Because you are literally saying release them back into the wild, Richard.
Release them back into the wild. You are saying that. That is actually a shockingly insulting thing to say, Sargon. And I'm not trolling when I say that.
Richard, let Stick speak, and then we'll talk to Millennial Wolves right after.
Okay, I would say, Richard, that's fine. But what about when they start like raiding the convoys and stuff on the borderlands? That could become a little problem.
We'll fight back.
Okay.
All right, and
what point is there arguing when your opponent has already made up their mind about what you think, regardless of what you're actually saying? Like, what is their argument against Native Americans having their own little ethno-state, a piece of land to call their own? And Styx comes out and says, like, what if they start raiding the caravans? How do you reply to that? We're in the modern era. We'll always be in communication with them. We speak the same language. It's not like how it was 400 years back. So are they just gonna immediately revert into savages and then start attacking us? A good way to describe why they can say things like this is a quote from Bertrand Russell. This was said by Stephen Fry at his political correctness debate.
And I would like this quotation from my hero Bertrand Russell to hover over the evening. One of the painful things about our time is that those who feel certainty are stupid, and those with any imagination and understanding are filled with doubt and indecision. Let doubt prevail.
They already have their minds made up. They already think they are correct. And they're just not willing to accept any outside information that would change their minds, or even accept that someone holds a different opinion than them. They'll just laugh at you, they'll insult you, they call you an alt-right Nazi or whatever. It's like, well, what's your actual argument? Another good quote to use in this situation is one from Aristotle. It is the mark of the educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it.
Yeah, Wolves, how do you weigh into the conversation that is happening right now?
Oh, well, I've just been listening in, and it's been very entertaining. I think that there's a lot of pedantry going on about what is white and all that. I think it's absolutely retarded. Everyone knows what is white.
If everyone knows, why can't you just tell me? If
well,
knows, why don't you just tell me?
Okay, yeah. I'll ask you. Is Lawrence Fishburne white?
I don't know. Does he act white? He gets called white a lot.
how do you even respond to that? I just don't know. I haven't actually heard him self-reflect on him saying this comment. It's like, how do you not think that after you said it, that it was one of the dumbest things you probably ever said in your life? And I'm sure it wouldn't have even have been a big deal if he just went, oh, that was really stupid. Yeah, he's, you know, black, but he doesn't, because he doesn't want to lose. I've heard he acts white, so whether or not his skin color is black doesn't necessarily mean he's not white. Sometimes pride just makes us say or do the stupidest things. But I just think it's the lack of ever reflecting on it and just constantly trying to reaffirm that everything he said is right. Because let's not forget, he had a video after the debate when he said he went to bed of it sounded like an echo chamber. It was just people he knew would reaffirm his position, and even his like to dislike. It's like, I think right now 7.7k likes and like 8.7 dislikes. It was just ridiculous. I don't know how you can trust someone who, no matter what he says, will continually try to make, even distort reality to make himself right. It's just, I don't know. Those people are very dangerous. Those are the type of people telling like 4-year-olds that it's okay to chop your cock off or dress up like a girl. It's like, fucking reality, mate. Have you checked it? And I know he's against that, but I just mean he's using that exact same line of thinking and argumentation, which is, well, you're using their methods. Maybe integrity and respect method would be much nicer. You can be nasty to nasty ideas, but I didn't see Richard present any ideas that were malicious of any kind. So all this ill intent from Soygoy is kind of undeserved. Because if you remember, Hillary called pretty much half the population degenerates. And how did that work out? I mean, there wasn't any evidence or proper argument to it. It's just, you don't agree with me, therefore you are a deplorable. The end.
No, he doesn't.
God, that's
Yes,
so
it does.
ridiculous.
There are
That's
Just answer the question,
You
sir.
can sit there
Is
and
Lawrence
say this is
Fishburne
ridiculous,
white?
right? But you
It
are the
is.
guys. You are the ones who are saying, right, okay, you're genetically white, but you're also culturally white.
That's
You
an
are the ones
essential
that
thing. It doesn't matter. Where I'm asking
That's not
you to
contradictory
answer this.
at all.
I know
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
not contradictory.
Sargon, is Lawrence Fishburne white? Is Lawrence Fishburne white?
Because what you're saying
Is Lawrence Fishburne white?
did you stop beating your wife yet?
Someone has sand in their vagina. Like, the question is Lawrence Fishburne white? And he can't answer it. I guess if he answered it, he'd probably undermine his own attempts at trying to claim he's black.
You'd be surprised, actually. My dad isn't white.
Mhm.
So my granddad wasn't white, and he was a black man in the 60s who married my white grandmother. And my father is his son, his oldest son, and then I'm my father's oldest son. So
Okay,
I might look quite white, but if you would see a sort of a genealogy of my family, it's not.
Hey, brother, I'm also black.
And it's very interesting, like, and I love this. Listen to this. The tricky thing is that even if his grandfather was actually himself only a quarter black, he'd still refer to him as black. My grandfather wasn't a quarter black, he was fully black. So who the hell knows how much black DNA he actually has?
I went in this alt-right hangout, and, there were like 8 of them and me, and my grandfather's black on my dad's side.
I watched Alt Hype's video today, and he made the argument that you are not being completely honest, that you are part black.
I don't know what race he actually was, because it was never something I really cared about. I mean, he was a very dark-skinned man, but I don't think he was sub-Saharan. I never really thought about it, because I don't care. I don't know, West Indian or something maybe?
Yeah.
I just don't know.
My grandfather wasn't a quarter black, he was fully black.
Is Sargon one of those white self-loathers who have to try and convince everyone that they're not white? I mean, don't look at my skin. My grandpa was black. And then for some strange reason he goes, oh, I actually don't know about my grandpa. I mean, he was a dark-skinned man, but, you know, I didn't really care. Well, Sargon, if you didn't care, why, when you were being interviewed by that black guy, did you try and say that you're one of the brothers? Is this one of your 20-year plans to justify calling a bunch of people you disagree with white niggers? Oh, don't worry, guys, I'm also black.
I don't know, West Indian or something maybe?
Yeah.
I just don't know. But definitely...
Yeah, I wouldn't care either. I just brought it up because it was a bit of fun.
I like the way that the racial inquisitors were asking me to do a 23andMe test. He was like, well, you can prove me wrong by doing this test. I was like, why would I want to prove you wrong?
Well, they're not exactly racial inquisitors. They're just pointing out the obvious, that you're a pasty white cunt trying to pretend you're black. And all they're asking for is some actual proof that you are what you say you are. Are you trying to copy Elizabeth Warren?
I used to get in trouble for always using the N-word, but with DNA and me, I found out that I'm 2.1% black. Morning, Steve. Sup, nigga?
Yeah, he's pretty much a SJW at this point. Principles? Check. Ethnicity? Not white? Check. Using ad hominem attacks on opponents who disagree with me? Check. Back to the argument.
Because that's what you're doing. Listen, right?
It's not the equivalent question.
I have just
You're not
laid
going to
out
insult
exactly-
Lawrence Fishburne by
Richard,
answering that
Richard,
question?
Listen, can you answer a single question, right? And I've asked this many times. You are
I've
saying that
answered
there's a genetic
tons of
component and
questions
a
tonight.
cultural component. And
Yes,
you
and those two
require
are
white
related,
people to live in a certain kind of way.
Well, fucking, yeah. White people live differently to black people, who live differently to Asian people. I mean, what the fuck? Like, this shouldn't even be an argument, but because it's Soygoy, he wants to make something out of nothing. Because that's his strategy from the start. A very good example about how we differ from other cultures. I saw in a documentary where a Chinese man was just berating a Congolese man, however you say it.
按说是你们受欧洲国家管理这么长时间，应该是学到了很多先进的管理经验。
哪有多少时间？没有多少时间了。我们炒那个要那个国经济啊，很炒。现在是50年了，这几50年那个。
就是50年以前，你不是受他们
50年以前什么都好啊。
是啊，那个先进的影响，那个代代往传下来，越传越文明越发达了，怎么越来越倒退越落后了？你看这么先进的铁路，我都1930几年就有电气化铁路，我这是中国啥时候才有电气化铁路的？你看矿区那个铁路，电气化的双轨铁路，你看架得多好！你看现在顶上那个什么，哎呀，千疮百孔啊，破烂不堪啊！把原有留下的东西根本都没有更加的爱护保护去利用它，反而都遭到了毁灭性的重创，就成了这样子的。 只有慢慢经过几代人，他是就是中国说的那句话：“今人有酒今人醉，明人没酒喝凉水。”就这样子。
There are reasons why different races and cultures thrive more than others. But that's a very big topic, because it's got to go over thousands of years to show the change and everything. So another time.
Sticks.
I want to be fair.
Is Lawrence Fishburne white?
I don't know who that is.
Oh, okay. Is Samuel Jackson white?
Sticks, don't worry.
Is Samuel Jackson white?
I think this is a goal.
Oh, the answer's no, Sargon. The answer's no, Sargon. Thank you. Thank you. What
Okay,
about
no, I agree with you. I agree that there are people who aren't white.
What the fuck is wrong with this guy? All he cares about is that his opponents are wrong and he is right. Nothing else really matters. He just admitted that he was wrong. But he's still not wrong. For some weird reason in his mind, he's still like, I'm not wrong. No. I agree. I agree that there are people who are not white. Also, get over it. A good point is that the Frenchman comes in and goes, "This is what Spencer's been trying to tell you for 2 hours, that white people are defined by." And he's like, "Oh, somebody who can answer." But he just said Richard Spencer's been doing it for 2 fucking hours. Soygoy can't compute because Richard's supposed to be his enemy. And enemies must be wrong, no matter what they say.
Woes. I agree, but I'm talking about the ones that are white. If we can talk about them for a minute.
Wouldn't it be more worth your time to talk about people who are actually disagreed upon as to their classification? Again, it doesn't really matter even necessarily if they're an identitarian. What about someone who's like a deeply tanned Italian or a marginally white Turk or a white Mexican? There are so many people that I see.
Let us quickly change topic to something that doesn't make us look like asshats. But Styx does bring up a good point, but he sort of answers it himself. You know, a deeply tanned Italian man is an Italian man who's been in the sun a lot. You got the white Turk. Well, he's a white Turk. White Mexican. He's a white Mexican.
What's the deal with white Mexicans?
Their own cultural identity is their own problem. They get to decide that for themselves. But I don't doubt for a second there won't be people like Elizabeth Warren who have about 1 in 1,000th Native American DNA, but they'll go, "Oh, I'm also Native American. Let me get those benefits." But that's another topic.
People within the identitarian, you may say, well, you know, it's self-evident because of genetics or something like that. What about people who, other people who don't agree? Like Spence, you're talking about creating like an elite core of people to rule society. That's fine. Even they're going to have disagreements. You're going to put it up before a vote. And what if they vote in what some other group thinks is the wrong way and they take up arms, say, no, this is getting on towards social justice warriordom, like this Irish person isn't white, or that person they're just a shade too much melanin in their skin. How do you reconcile that pragmatically?
No, let him answer the question. Let him answer the question.
No, I'll give the floor to Millennial Was.
Can I just make a point, right? Because this thing about, well, the Irish used to be regarded as not white and neither regarded as white and all this. Does anyone seriously believe that one day Africans, sub-Saharan Africans, are going to be regarded as white?
That's a point.
That misses the point, though. That's.
I guess this part's a bit convoluted. It all sounds like a bunch of bullshit. It's getting really pedantic with this whole, oh, this guy has a shade more melanin in his skin, therefore he is not white. And his point about there's going to be disagreements within a group in which way the country should go. Well, that's every fucking country on earth that has ever existed. I don't get it. We already have identity politics. So, I mean, I don't understand, like, of course, but if they were to have their white ethno-state, then people couldn't really use that argument because they're all white. Not to mention, you'd have to be a complete spastic to even think that's a credible argument.
The point is people who are not agreed upon at any given time. It doesn't matter if we retrospectively say, well, you know, it was obvious at the time, they were just dumb. It doesn't really matter.
Get a DNA test. Problem solved. People like creating problems when there honestly are none. We have the technology. We have the information. It's all on the internet. Can't you just fucking find it? And before DNA tests were invented, if you could not distinguish a person's ethnicity and you needed it down in a legal document, they'd have to provide one and stick with it for the rest of their fucking life. And it would have to accurately describe them and their ancestry or face consequences. Problem solved.
Yeah. Well, the point is, of course, we can talk about the edge cases. The Turks and all that. But I think the crucial thing is, you know, Sargon is asking us to define white people, and I'm saying this is self-evident.
not.
I said this
No,
to
I'm
Sargon
not.
2 years ago.
That's a
Oh, really?
misrepresentation of what I've said.
Well, do it then. Go be clearer.
I've literally said this multiple times, but you guys, as soon as I start making a specific argument, a specific distinction,
do it. Come on,
turn off your
just do
brains.
it.
Okay, well, calm down and listen. You have white people as a genetic distinct group, right? And then you have the culture that you envisage them producing.
So pretty much you are asking them to define white people. You're just trying to cleverly wrap it up in a word salad so nobody knows what the fuck you're talking about. And all this crap about, I'm trying to ask a very simple question, but whenever I try, you go and turn your brains off. It's just a bunch of bullshit. If anyone has their brain turned off, it's the guy who suggested that Lawrence Fishburne and Samuel L. Jackson weren't black.
So do you think that we think...
No, don't
that
ask me
white
questions.
people
I'm still getting to this.
No,
I
I'm
just
going
want
to
to
ask
know
you
if I'm
questions.
representing
I'm
your
asking you
beliefs.
interrogating me every time we
Am
talk.
I representing your beliefs accurately, yes or no?
Answer.
I'm not sure what you're saying. I'm not sure what you're saying.
that
Do you think... Do you... Oh, God. Do you think, Sargon, that I think that
Don't
white
ask
people
me
who
a
don't behave
question,
white
just
people...
answer my question.
No, I am going to ask you a question. You always do this, and it's not right.
Because
you
I'm trying
always
to
try
get to the bottom of what you
interrupt me and
actually
get me
believe. You seem afraid of your own principles.
No, you're not. No.
Am I representing your beliefs accurately, yes or no? And then when Woes tries to question him to try and figure out, he's like, don't question me. Don't question me. I am the Don Sargon. That's how you figure shit out. You go, what do you mean by this? And you ask questions. What even are Sargon's principles? Just reading Locke and Thomas Jefferson doesn't automatically give you principles. You know, you actually have to prove that you have them. And so far, I just haven't seen any from him.
Also, some of these people have paid
just
money.
Before we move on.
Some of these people have paid money in the super chat, and I think we should get to their questions.
Yeah, you care about those people, Richard. I know, you're such a giving person.
Oh yeah, Richard, you care about those fucking plebeians in the super chat. How dare you? You're a degenerate. Richard does not adhere to the prescribed manual of thinking. I'm literally shaking right now. What a twat.
Answer to Sargon because he did ask a question and no one really answered, but I understood Sargon's question.
All right, please
Your
answer Sargon's question. Thank you.
Is no, you do not represent their belief correctly because you mix the prescriptive with the descriptive. What Richard has been saying for more than 2 hours now is that first there is a race. That race is defined by facial characteristics, skin color, genetics, etc. Whatever criteria you want to use, it's a set of embedded criteria, and some of them are better if you have the data, but some of them are also more accessible. On the other end, he says, I see this group of people and I can describe it. He's not prescribing a form of culture. He's saying, I see something in these people.
Okay, and this is the crucial thing that I'm trying to drive at, and I thank you for being able to actually answer that, because as soon as you characterize and codify this group of people, and then you make this group of people, you give them rights, you imbue them with an existence beyond the actual group themselves, then you do become prescriptive. Then you're going to end up getting people going, you're not being white enough, you're not acting white, you're or whatever the white equivalent of an Uncle Tom's going to be. That's exactly what we see in the black community. That's entirely my problem with identitarianism. It becomes just like this.
Once you characterize and codify a group of people, this is exactly what they will do because I know the future. What is his point? That's life. People are gonna act certain ways and other people aren't, regardless of their skin color. Some white people wanna act like Asians, some Asians wanna act like black people, some black people wanna act like white people. And I'm sure there are other races that do the same. They're just talking about the edge groups, the minority, the fucking 1%. It's the same argument the SJWs use to promote transgenderism. We have a group of 0.4% transgenders. Let's push their agenda everywhere, into school, into the office, into the government, and fuck the 99.6%ers.
So then we should just race mix.
See, exactly. That is not what the the alternative to what I'm saying.
Because
that is absolutely not what I'm saying, Colin.
It actually is, and you've said several times that you wouldn't care if the white race disappeared. So I think this is
now
really
you're
where
telling
you're
me how
getting
offended you
towards.
are. I hope the white race disappears
I'm not
tomorrow.
offended.
Now. I hope it
I'm not
disappears,
offended.
just evaporates.
You
I think
do
it's
hope
the
so. Are you being
most
serious,
force in the history of the planet. What now?
You're just.
Yes,
Are you being
I am,
serious,
because you're
Sergey?
being childish.
I'm being childish because you're being childish. Do you count yourself among the white race? I mean, you're a pasty white cunt, so if they die, you're going with them. Countries with a strong race identity don't like race mixing, so the alternative is kind of race mixing. And if white people want to fuck white people and black people want to fuck black people, why is it any of your business, Sargon? None of this shit even relates to him. He's just sticking his nose where it doesn't belong. Excuse me there, black man. How dare you not date another race? Those who cannot control their own emotions seek to control other people's behavior.
Why are you reluctant to discuss how your ethno-state and ideology match up to political theories and writing? You dismiss Sargon when he brings up Locke's writing. Why can't your views be challenged by principles?
What I was saying is that Sargon was living in an abstract realm where he was saying, oh, the state in Locke's conception should be created in order to protect the inalienable rights of each individual. When I'm living in an abstract realm, I want to think descriptively and phenomenologically. No state has ever arisen in order to protect the rights of individuals.
Your state arose for that.
So described by Thomas Jefferson, it actually did not arise in that way at all. It arose due to blood and iron and amazing risk takers who were willing to forfeit their entire existence in order to create independence. It was created through blood and iron, period. It was created through a war. If the rebels lost that war, the United States would simply not exist in its current form.
Yeah, America rose because of its philosophy. When Britain fought America in the Great War for Independence, America showed them a book about philosophy, and they retreated in fear. They were so distraught by how unintellectual they were that they could not pick up a gun or load a cannon anymore, and just sunk into a deep depression. And thus America was born. I don't recall any real country being born out of just philosophy. You had to kill a few cunts. Hey, some countries could be born out of philosophy, but then the people with guns and swords and catapults would just come to their front door and take whatever they wanted. Free shit! I'm in! Every border in Europe is an arbitrary line where two groups of bandits grew tired of fighting and decided to rest for a while. Robert Anton Wilson.
Yeah, but you don't understand the founding of your own country. It was founded on philosophy.
Yeah, I've read. You've
ignored it. I think. I agree. You don't seem to understand it. And you sit there going, "Well, blood and iron." Oh my god!
I understand it in a sense that I don't buy into it and thus Jefferson invented America when he penned the Declaration of Independence. No, that was a legitimizing function. He was trying to appeal to social mores. He was trying to appeal to Enlightenment philosophers of his age. Did the United States actually arise in that kind of vacuum in which individuals came together in order to protect their own rights? Obviously not. That was a way of justifying a very bloody and long war against the homeland.
Not true at all. The whole point is it's not in a vacuum. It comes in because of the Enlightenment, the intellectual revolution of Europe accumulates in the United States of America.
Yeah, just more of the same shit. A good example is why philosophy cannot found states is that in approximately 240 BC, the Qin dynasty took over China, and to signal the end of the Warring States period, that's like 240 years of war, they decided to burn all books save for one of each type to institute legalism, which is just power to the state while ignoring the common people's interest. But it's a short reign of about 46 years, and then the Han dynasty comes along and then stops the ban on books, and suddenly they're developing philosophy again. What philosophies are allowed to flourish really depend on who's in charge at the time.
There was a legitimacy crisis in the 18th century in which claiming what else was Jefferson going to do? The United States itself was facing a legitimacy crisis where they had to seek a new form of legitimacy. They could not seek older forms of legitimacy of being a colony of Britain. They were picking up on currents, philosophical currents of the day, and that is why they describe the state as such. That doesn't mean that that is actually how sovereignty is created.
No, you don't understand. Like these ideas.
If social justice warriors went to
Richard,
war,
please let Sargon respond.
The whole point, Richard. Well, I mean, read Common Sense by Thomas Paine. That is like you can see exactly. They know what they're doing with the American Revolution. I mean, he sits there and plans out like the tonnage of the ships required and the materials required to build these in order to put these values into practice. Like the idea that you think this is a retroactive thing is just wrong.
No, it was an attempt to legitimize actions that were taken that were political actions.
The ideas came first, the actions came second.
Oh, so they read philosophy and then they decided to create the United States.
That's exactly how it worked.
Keep dreaming.
Has Sargon even read books about why the Revolutionary War even started? Because I did a bit of reading, and it definitely isn't about philosophy. So here's the recap. So there was the French and Indian War that ended in 1763. The Britain Parliament went to America and said, well, we fought this war to protect you from the powerful French in Canada. So we need to tax you heavily to repay our debts. So they taxed sugar, they taxed stamps, and they taxed other shit just to take money from America. So screwed over by this, Americans started going, hey, I don't think they're fighting the wars to protect us, just to expand their own power and wealth. Not to mention all our lawmakers have to be elected from Britain, so they don't understand our concerns. And since they did not choose these people to be in the government, they had a rallying cry, no taxation without representation. So then in 1771, a bunch of Tar Heel farmers, 2,000 of them, they called themselves regulators because they wanted to try and regulate the corrupt government officials. These officials would charge them huge fees and just seize their property without their consent. The rebellion was swiftly dealt with. Then in 1773, in Boston, Massachusetts, you had people throw their tea into the river just so they didn't have to pay the tax. Then in 1775 began the American Revolution with a shot that was heard around the world. It was between the Redcoats and the colonist militia called the Minutemen. And then a lot of bloodshed and continued war happened. But during that, this is the part that's relevant to the video, they wanted to create a new government because they had to. If the king was no longer sovereign, the center of authority and order, then who would be? They understood English law though, so they went from there and built upon it. So in 1776, they wrote the Declaration of Rights. So Sargon's pretty much full of shit. Actions came first, and then philosophy. Not to mention this twat actually thinks all the farmers, all the common folk actually give a shit about philosophy. In those days, the best you could ask for is a good wife, good children, a good stable life and to die of old age. But I value philosophy so dearly, so everyone else throughout history must also think the exact same way that I do.
Have you read Common Sense by Thomas Paine? Have you read any of these things?
Yes.
And how can you sit there and say that that's not the case?
Because
have you even read Locke? Oh, you have? Then how come you don't think the exact same way that I do? Because the way I think is exactly right. But I won't show how.
I don't buy into this fairy tale of Americanism, which you unfortunately do.
Denial, I get it.
Denial of a fairy tale, yes.
If you want, but that doesn't make them not true.
You can deny Richard Spencer's point all you want. Doesn't make them not true either, you dumb cunt.
You will disagree. Woes, did you want to weigh in?
I think it's absurd to suggest that the people fighting that war, the majority of them understood the philosophical underpinnings. I think there were far more real-world motivations there.
Ah, how reasonable. That people at the time cared about their property and not being fucked over by the government and wanted to live a life that wasn't getting fucked.
By the way, we just hit number one.
The majority aren't required to understand it.
Number one world.
Only the minority that have read Locke and Thomas Jefferson need to understand philosophy.
Worldwide, this is amazing.
We're number one worldwide right now. All right, Sticks, do you want to weigh in?
Oh, no, I've got nothing to say on that one.
All right, cool. So Min NSMH, 20 pounds. Richard, you say out of one side of your mouth that liberalism is all idealistic fantasy, while your position is a pragmatic. Then out of the other, when you start talking about your ethno-state, you talk purely about your ideals.
Okay, that's an interesting statement. This is how I would answer that. I don't think liberalism is a good way of understanding social order or sovereignty. That is the foundation of a state. And so when Sargon says, oh, this is what governments are about, he's basically saying, haven't you read Common Sense? Haven't you read John Locke? Because in this abstract world, that is what governments are about. I am saying that this is what governments are really about.
You have an abstract
no
world
doubt
as well.
force involved. There is no doubt rivalry and power relations involved, no question. Now, when I talk about the ethno-state, yes, it is inherently idealistic. It's not liberal,
abstract,
but it is inherently.
Sargon's trying to control what governments are. You just need to look at history. You see Mongolian governments that are just ravaging countrysides. You see Chinese governments that are building up philosophy. You also see the same Chinese governments tearing it down. Governments are usually a result of the people at the time. All the most successful civilizations were usually homogeneous, because diversity does breed conflict. That's why we have so many fucking wars, especially when religion and money is involved. You got some nice shit over there. And I've got 100,000 people who, if I say you're the enemy of God, they'll help me take it from you.
Inherently idealistic in the sense of this is, there are ethno-states that exist today that could be protected, yes, but my conception of an ethno-state is something to shoot for. It is something that should be a telos, a great goal that we channel our actions towards. So I agree it is interesting to think about pragmatism and idealism, but there's no fundamental contradiction in terms of what I'm saying.
What you're saying is no different to what I'm saying. You just disagree with the goal.
Man, he just doesn't stop.
No, that's not what I just
Richard,
said very clearly. Do you want me to reiterate myself,
no.
Sargon?
I think it's evident.
We have to say things like 10 times for you to understand them.
No, Richard, it's obvious to everyone you don't understand what I'm saying.
Can't you see, Richard? Everyone already agrees with me. Why you even open your mouth? It's just a waste of oxygen. Please stop. Soygoy found shortly after that everyone thought he was a complete twat.
It's really
no.
Your long pauses.
It's not.
Just come on, man. Stop trying to be a dick.
Sargon, I am sorry. You're going to find this insulting. You think that you are more intelligent than you are, and that is a difficult place for you to be.
And this is the beginning of the end. for a boy known as Soygoy of Cuckad.
God,
I'm describing reality. I'm describing this
What colour am I
experience with you.
You're telling me what I think, so what color? Come on.
Oh, give me a break. That.
No, don't give you. You just told me what I think. I don't know.
I didn't tell you what you think. I
interested.
said you have a conception of your intellectual abilities that are greater than reality, and that is a difficult place for any human being to be.
God damn! That kid just got wrecked.
That is my description of you, Sargon, and I am sorry,
You
but I have to be honest to you, and you should actually thank me for being so honest.
Demonstrably wrong, and you are resorting to an ad hominem attack because you know you have no answers.
That is just demonstrably wrong. How could you resort to an ad hominem attack? Oh, I know. It's because you have no answers. Even though I spent pretty much the entire debate giving none of my own. Hypocrisy means nothing to me. I will say whatever best suits my agenda. And if you ask for evidence, I will reply, I don't need evidence, for I am the dawn, Sargon.
No, that's not. Both of you are being unfair.
I've answered your question a million times.
I'm asking him about his ideology, and then he attacks me personally with a character or...
fair enough.
My simple experience of being with you, Sargon. I have answered your questions.
Actually speak to the issues, Richard.
Actually speak to the issues. What's this guy crying about? Didn't he intentionally antagonize Richard and Millennial Woes by saying that I hope the whole white race just disappears. How do you like that? I'm literally shaking. Have you stopped beating your wife? Oh yeah, you care about those fucking super chat plebeians, don't you, Richard? And now, when he's being personally attacked, oh, how dare they personally attack me? Moderator, please step in.
Pastor Gator Coot, $5. In the interview with David Pacman, Spencer says Iranians are more white than Jews. What the fuck, Richard?
Well, Iranians are Persians. Actually, the word Iran is another form of the root word Aryan. So there's no question that there is a genetic continuity between Europeans and Persians. Obviously, we have a major historical discontinuity. I mean, it is a fundamentally different historical experience.
Are you suggesting that you agree with
Persians,
Aryan Germans?
You said the word Aryan. That must mean that you agree with Hitler. He's really scraping the bottom of the barrel, just trying to figure out any way he can twist Richard's words against him. I don't know much about this continuity, and I couldn't find much, so moving on.
All right, Lucius Wagner, $5. Question for Spencer: will white Muslims be allowed in your state? I think I know the answer to that one. And
absolutely
what about?
Not.
They're not being white correctly. You don't understand.
And what
this
about
is what I'm talking about when I say that there's going to be a cultural aspect that you're going to have to enforce.
Yes, and I've said yes.
And you can't.
That's one of the things that we will enforce.
Yeah, but you,
look,
there's going to have to be a cultural aspect that you need to enforce. Yes, we will enforce it. And you can't define it. I have a solution to this problem Sargon has created. Hey Richard, could you define the culture that you want in your white ethno-state? And I'll shut up and listen for a while. Or is that too rational a solution?
What about though if a sect within Buddhism or anything else were to arise that became like that? Or what if there was a group within Islam like the Alawite maybe who are like, yeah, we don't really care about the
right, maybe
caliphate.
we would allow the Alawites in as some exception because they're highly civilized. Yeah, I get your point.
And what if someone within
I'm going to address it. I'm going to address
Oh,
it.
what if?
Many.
What if in a country there were problems between citizens? Just think about it. I'm sure that really threw your argument into the shitter. Oh, you can solve it by not allowing them in? And if they infiltrate, you just kick them out? That just doesn't make any sense at all. I gave you a problem, and you gave me a solution. But what if? And thus ends part 1 on Soygoy of Cuckad.